On New Year's Eve, Mom raised her glass and said, "We expect you to start sending money to help your brother get back on his feet." Dad grinned. "If not, we won't babysit your kid anymore." I smiled, raised mine back and said, "Then consider her raised, without a single dollar from me going to you ever again." And their faces turned pale. That was the night I realized my parents were full-blown egoists. Not just flawed or a little selfish, I mean real, unapologetic, calculated egoists. And of course it had to be on New Year's Eve. We had barely made it through dinner when the whole act began to unravel. I'd come over with my daughter around 6. She was wearing a glittery little dress she picked herself, proudly dragging a stuffed unicorn under her arm. I debated even going. I was exhausted from work, money was tight, and honestly I knew Josh would be there. But I convinced myself it would be good for my daughter to see her grandparents. Besides, it was just dinner. I didn't expect fireworks. Josh naturally showed up empty-handed. I don't know why I still notice. He never brings anything, never helps set up or clean, never offers to pay for anything. And still he's the golden child. Mom brought him a beer before he even asked. Dad laughed at every half-hearted story he told. It was like watching a rerun. The whole evening had that strange, overly nice feeling. Too many smiles. Too much forced cheer. Mom lit candles, which she never does unless company's over. Dad wore a button-down. There was steak. I should have known something was coming. They waited until after dinner. My daughter had curled up with a blanket on the couch, half asleep. I was sipping my wine, trying to ignore how smug Josh looked for someone with nothing going on in his life. Then Mom lifted her glass and smiled. "We expect you to start sending money to help your brother get back on his feet." No hesitation. No build-up. Just that. I stared at her, wondering if she seriously thought that would land smoothly. Josh didn't even look surprised. He took a swig of his beer and leaned back, like this had been planned days ago. Like the three of them had already agreed that I'd foot the bill for his next phase. Then Dad chimed in with something that still turns my stomach when I think about it. "If not, we won't babysit your kid anymore." Just like that. Leverage. Threatening me with my own daughter. They knew how hard I'd been working. 2 jobs most of the year, barely any sleep, scraping to cover bills while still helping them with theirs. I'd covered their past due utilities more times than I could count. When they almost lost the car last spring, I used my savings to cover the difference. And now they were holding my child over my head like a pawn in some pathetic family negotiation? I didn't raise my voice. I didn't get dramatic. I just lifted my glass and said, "Then consider her raised, without a single dollar from me going to you ever again." And the silence that followed was better than a slap. Mom froze. Dad blinked like he didn't understand English. Josh finally sat up, his expression souring for the first time all night. It was quiet for a long few seconds before Mom started mumbling something about how I was overreacting, how I was misunderstanding what they meant. But I knew exactly what they meant. They wanted me to keep propping up Josh's failures while pretending it was all part of being a family. It wasn't. That moment didn't end the night. It shattered it. What came after, the yelling, the insults, the way my daughter woke up startled and scared from all the noise, that was the breaking point. But the real ending started with that toast. Because once you see your own parents trying to use your child to manipulate you, you can't unsee it. You don't come back from that. The moment the toast ended, the masks came off. My mom was the first to react. She started talking fast, piling words on top of each other, saying I was twisting everything, that family helps family, that I was acting like money mattered more than people. She kept repeating the same idea in different ways, like if she said it enough times, it would turn into the truth. Dad stayed quiet at first. He watched me the way he does when he thinks he still has control. That look didn't last long. He finally said that if I was going to be this difficult, then I shouldn't expect them to be there for childcare anymore. No rides. No favors. No help. He made it sound like a punishment he'd been saving. Josh took that as his cue. He leaned forward and started listing all the ways his life was harder than mine. Rent, stress, bad luck, people screwing him over. He said I had no idea what it was like to be under pressure. He said I had stability. He said I was lucky. That word hit harder than anything else. Lucky. Like I hadn't worked weekends for years. Like I hadn't skipped vacations, new clothes, nights out. Like I hadn't quietly transferred money to my parents when they hinted things were tight. Like I hadn't paid off their overdue utility bill without telling anyone. Like I hadn't already given Josh cash that somehow never fixed anything. I reminded them of those things. Not angrily. Just factually. I told them how much I'd already helped. I told them I was done being the emergency plan. They didn't deny any of it. They just said it wasn't enough. That's when the volume went up. Everyone started talking at once. My mom accused me of abandoning the family. Dad said I was being dramatic. Josh said I was punishing him for things that weren't his fault. The room felt smaller by the second. Then my daughter started crying. It wasn't loud at first. Just that shaky sound kids make when they're confused and scared. She had been half asleep on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, listening to people she trusted turn sharp and angry. Her little face crumpled and she called for me. Everything inside me snapped into place. I didn't argue anymore. I didn't explain. I picked her up, grabbed her coat and bag and headed for the door. My mom told me to calm down. My dad said I was overreacting. Josh said I was proving their point. None of it mattered. I left. The drive home felt longer than usual. My hands were tight on the steering wheel. My daughter fell asleep again before we got there, her face still damp, her unicorn tucked under her chin. I carried her inside and laid her down, watching her breathe until my own chest stopped feeling tight. After that, I sat alone in the living room with the lights off. I kept replaying the night. Not just the yelling but the planning behind it. The timing. The way they waited until I was relaxed. The way they used my child as leverage without hesitation. The way Josh never once said no, don't do this, she's already helped enough. That's when it really sank in. They weren't angry because I refused. They were angry because I broke the system. The one where I paid, stayed quiet and absorbed the damage. And once I understood that, I knew this wasn't just a bad fight. It was a line I'd crossed for good. They didn't reach out for 5 days. Not a single call, no messages, nothing. It was almost funny how quiet they went after everything that was said. For a moment, I wondered if they were finally starting to realize just how far they'd pushed me. But no, I know them too well for that. The silence wasn't reflection. It was strategy. I spent New Year's Day with my daughter. We stayed in our pajamas until noon, made pancakes that turned out lumpy and watched the same 3 animated movies on repeat. And for once, even with everything hanging in the air, the house felt still. No one asking for money. No guilt trips. No emergencies that somehow became my responsibility. Just me and her, safe and tired and together. The call came on the 5th night. It was Mom, of course. Dad never calls unless there's a car involved. She didn't start with an apology. She opened with small talk. How was work? How was my daughter? Had I finished repainting the kitchen like I said I would? Her voice was so calm, so casual, like nothing had happened at all. I could already tell she was pretending we had just had a difference of opinion, not a screaming match that ended with me walking out of their house with my child in my arms. I answered politely. I didn't bring up New Year's. I waited. Eventually she eased into it. She said she hoped I'd had some time to think. That family can be complicated. That emotions run high around the holidays. That sometimes things are said that shouldn't be taken so seriously. She said Dad felt bad about what he said, which was laughable since Dad never feels bad unless someone tells him to. And she said Josh had been really down lately, feeling isolated, like no one in the family believed in him anymore. I didn't say a word. He kept going. She reminded me of the times they helped me, mostly in ways that sounded bigger when she said them out loud. Like babysitting, which yes, they did sometimes, but conveniently forgotten were the times I sent them cash to cover the gas bill or paid off their credit card when Dad had a minor surgery and their insurance didn't stretch far enough. Then she brought up Josh. Said he was trying. Said he just needed a boost. A small one. Just enough to get stable again. I knew where this was going. I let her talk. She danced around the number for a while, saying things like, nothing huge, and just a little push, until she finally dropped it. $7,000. She said it like she was talking about a favor. A small kindness. Like I had that kind of money sitting in a drawer, waiting for someone else's problems to land on it. I told her no. Not angrily. Not emotionally. Just no. That's when she got quiet for a moment, then tried a different angle. She said maybe it didn't have to be a full $7,000. Maybe just part of it. Maybe I could look into a loan or use some of my tax return when it came in. She even suggested, and this made my stomach turn, that Josh could sign something to promise he'd pay me back. I reminded her he still hadn't paid me back from last time. That he never even mentioned it again after the day I sent it. She said this time was different. I told her it wasn't. Then I said something I hadn't planned to say, it just came out. I told her I didn't trust them anymore. That after the stunt they pulled on New Year's, after the way they tried to manipulate me using my own daughter, I wasn't comfortable letting them watch her. Not for now. Maybe not ever. That's when her tone shifted. She didn't argue. She didn't beg. She just went cold. She ended the call without saying goodbye. And I thought that was it. I was wrong. Because a few weeks later I picked my daughter up from preschool and found out she was already gone. The teacher said she'd been picked up early. By her grandparents. Without telling me. My heart dropped. Everything I'd told them, every line I'd drawn, and they ignored all of it. That was the day everything finally fully broke. The preschool was quieter than usual that afternoon. It was one of those cold, gray Thursdays where everything feels a little off. I was early, same as always, I never missed pickup, not once. It's something I take pride in, showing up for her when everything else in life has been so inconsistent. I signed in, smiled at the assistant teacher who barely looked up, and waited near the door to the playroom. After a minute or two, she came back out and said something that didn't register at first. She said my daughter had already been picked up. I didn't move. I thought she meant another kid. I even looked behind me like maybe someone else had walked in and I'd missed it. Then she said it again. This time with a smile as if it was good news. Oh, her grandparents picked her up about an hour ago. She said you weren't feeling well today? That's when the blood in my body drained to my feet. I didn't say anything at first. I just stared at her and I think she realized something was wrong. She quickly added that they were on the approved pickup list. Everything was fine, they even brought a snack in a car seat. She said my daughter seemed happy. I felt like my knees might give out. That pickup list, I hadn't thought about it in months. I added my parents' names back when they were still helping before everything exploded. And I forgot to remove them. I left without another word, walked straight to my car, sat inside with the door open for a second, then slammed it shut and pulled out of the lot. My hands were shaking so badly that I missed the street turn on the first try. I called my mom straight to voicemail. Then my dad, same thing. I tried again. And again. Nothing. My heart was thudding in a way that made my vision feel sharp around the edges. I wasn't supposed to let myself get overwhelmed like this. I'd had a warning from my doctor last fall, but there was no way to stop it. My child was gone and no one told me. Finally, I called Josh. He picked up on the third ring, chewing something loudly into the phone. Yeah, Mom has her. Relax. She just wanted to see her. You're being weird. That sentence. You're being weird. I didn't say a word. I hung up and drove straight to my parents' house. Every mile felt like an hour. My mind ran through every possible version of what I'd walk into. What if they weren't home? What if they had taken her somewhere else? What if she was crying, asking where I was? But when I pulled into the driveway, all 3 cars were parked outside. I jumped out and went straight in, no knocking. My daughter was on the floor in the living room, surrounded by blocks and toys I hadn't seen since she was a baby. She looked up, smiled, and ran to me like it was the best part of her day. I picked her up, held her close, and whispered that everything was okay now. Behind me, my mom launched right into it. She said I was being ridiculous. That it was just a visit. That they missed her. That they were trying to make things right and didn't know how else to reach me. I asked her why she didn't call. She said she was afraid I wouldn't let them see her. So instead of asking, she took. That's when my dad chimed in, said I was being hostile and that this didn't have to be a war. That I was turning something simple into a crisis. And then Josh, standing in the kitchen eating something out of a bag like he had nothing to do with this, said maybe none of this would have happened if I just acted like part of the family. I felt something burn in the back of my throat. I told them they had absolutely no right. That what they did wasn't just wrong, it was dangerous. They took my child without permission, against clear boundaries, and justified it because they didn't like being told no. My mom, still standing there with that injured expression she wears when things don't go her way, said she just wanted her granddaughter to know they loved her. She said they only kept her for 2 hours, that they were planning to bring her back before I even noticed. And then, as if we were just circling back to a casual topic, she brought up the money again. She said they weren't trying to pressure me, but things had gotten worse. Josh was in real trouble now. Creditors were calling the house. His car might get repossessed. She said they were only asking for help because it was truly necessary this time. Just $7,000 and it would all go away. I told her she was unbelievable. She said she understood I was mad, but maybe, just maybe, I could find a way to meet in the middle. Maybe half. $3,500. It would buy them time. Help him breathe. Show that I hadn't completely turned my back on them. I told her no. She asked again. I told her if she ever picked up my daughter without telling me again, she wouldn't see either of us ever again. She said I was making threats. I said I was making a promise. I walked out of that house with my daughter in my arms. I didn't buckle her in right away. I just held her there in the backseat while she looked up at me, asking if we were going home now. Yeah, we were. But not the same home as before. That night, I deleted every safe number from their contact. I called the school and removed every name except mine from the pickup list. I changed the code on her daycare release form. I closed every door I hadn't realized was still open. They didn't steal her for love. They did it to remind me that they could. And they wouldn't do it again. Things got quiet after I walked out of their house with my daughter. Not peaceful quiet, tense, heavy, waiting for a storm quiet. The kind you feel in your chest even when everything looks calm. First I thought they might try to call. Try to show up. Maybe my dad would come by with that performative, let's just talk routine. Or my mom would show up at my door pretending she'd brought something for my daughter. Muffins, a toy, anything to soften me up. But nothing came. They disappeared. It had been 3 weeks when I found the envelope. No return address. Just my name and home address, handwritten in a way that made my stomach turn before I even opened it. Inside was a single sheet of white paper, no greeting, no signature, just this. We understand. But please, just this once. $3,500. That's all we're asking. You don't have to speak to him. Help him. Help us. I didn't move for a full minute. My coffee sat next to me, untouched, going cold. I wasn't surprised, but it still made me feel sick. After everything, the manipulation, the threats, taking my child without permission, they still thought I owed them something. Still thought the door was open even after I slammed it shut. They weren't asking for forgiveness. They weren't apologizing. They were testing the boundary. That night, after I put my daughter to sleep, I sat at the kitchen table in silence with that letter. Not angry, not emotional. Just tired. Bone-deep tired. And I made a decision I didn't expect to make. I wrote the check. $3,500. No note. No signature besides the legal one. No explanation. I did it for one reason only, to end it. That number had been floating in the air for weeks like some cursed ransom. I knew if I didn't pay it, they'd keep pushing. Keep trying other ways. Another letter. A knock on the door. Some emotional performance at her preschool or my workplace. I couldn't stomach the idea that they might try again to reach my daughter to get to me. So I mailed it. Not as a gift. Not as help. As a transaction. A payoff. The price of severing whatever strings were still left. 3 days later, my mom texted. Thank you. We won't ask again. That was it. No, how are you? No, sorry about what we did. Just confirmation they got what they wanted. And true to their word, they didn't ask again. But the way they disappeared was louder than any words they could have said. They unfollowed me on every platform. They didn't call. They didn't text. They didn't send anything for my daughter's birthday. Not even a card. Nothing. It was like we stopped existing to them once the money arrived. I thought I'd feel free. But what I felt was more complicated than that. Like part of me finally understood something I'd been refusing to see for years. That they never saw me as a daughter. I was a resource. A line of credit they didn't have to repay. And now that line was closed. I started walking my daughter to school every day. Changed my emergency contacts. Made sure I had the legal paperwork in place that said no one but me could make decisions for her. I even looked into moving neighborhoods. Something farther away, somewhere they wouldn't find reasons to swing by. And I stopped talking about them. To anyone. I didn't explain. I didn't defend. Because there's no clean way to tell people your parents used your child to pressure you for money, and when you said no, they punished you with silence. There was one more thing though. About a month later, I got a voicemail from a number I didn't recognize. It was a woman. Someone from my mom's church, apparently. She said she was reaching out because Sandra's parents were really hurting, and asked if I'd consider starting the healing process. She said she'd be praying for me. I blocked the number. Healing didn't start with a prayer or a favor. It started the moment I realized they weren't family in the way family is supposed to be. They were people I was born to, not people I owed. And even after I paid their final price, they still didn't get it. Because they thought I was weak for walking away. But what they didn't realize, what they'll never understand, is that walking away was the strongest thing I've ever done. Months went by. No calls. No voicemails. No letters shoved under my door or left in my mailbox with vague threats dressed up as concern. It was like they'd been surgically removed from my life, clean and quiet. I thought maybe it would feel unnatural, like something was missing, but it didn't. It felt like breathing normally after holding my breath for years. My daughter was doing better too. I could see it in the way she slept through the night again. In the way she stopped asking if grandma was coming over and then slowly stopped asking about them at all. Kids notice more than we think. She had sensed the tension before I even understood it was a pattern, not a phase. The last time I saw my parents was at the grocery store. It was almost cinematic. I was walking through the produce aisle with my daughter sitting in the cart, pointing out bananas and trying to reach for grapes, when I saw my mom near the avocados. She saw us at the exact same moment. Her body froze, like she wasn't sure if she should wave or pretend we weren't real. I didn't stop. I didn't wave. I didn't give her the chance to try whatever speech she'd probably rehearsed in her head. I turned down another aisle, abandoned my cart and walked straight out the front door with my daughter in my arms. That was the first and last time I had to physically leave a space because of them. A few weeks later, I got a card in the mail. Not from my parents, from Josh. A cheap, flimsy card you could buy at a gas station. Inside, scrawled in his weird handwriting, was this. No hard feelings. Thanks for helping when you did. Maybe one day we'll be good again. Take care. That was it. No apology. No ownership. Just vague closure from a brother who treated me like an ATM with boundaries. I stood there for a second holding the card, thinking maybe I should feel something bigger. sadness, nostalgia. But I didn't. I felt nothing. Not numb, not cold. Just done. That was the unexpected part. I thought there would be a long grieving period. That I'd wrestle with guilt or spend nights wondering if I made the right call. But I didn't. Because once I stopped trying to make them into something they weren't, a real family, the hurt stopped having anywhere to land. I didn't hate them. Not anymore. I just no longer needed them to be different. They still pop up in mutual social circles sometimes. A cousin will tag my mom in a birthday post, or someone will mention how Josh is doing better now, as if that somehow validates everything that happened. It doesn't. I don't ask for updates and I don't correct the record. Let them tell whatever version of the story they need to tell. It doesn't touch me anymore. My daughter is surrounded by people who show up without strings attached. Friends, neighbors, her preschool teacher who learned her favorite snack and keeps extras in her desk. Real small kindnesses, the kind that don't require repayment. As for me, I've learned to be alone without feeling alone. To not mistake blood for safety. And to stop apologizing for expecting respect. That thread that held me connected to them, the one built from guilt and obligation and years of pretending, it's gone now. Not because I cut it in rage, but as I stopped holding on. The update. It's been a year now. No contact. No emergencies. No letters in the mailbox with desperate pleas or veiled manipulation. I heard through someone, an old neighbor, that Josh moved in with a girlfriend. Apparently she has no idea how deep his debt runs. My parents still post photos like nothing ever happened. Birthday cakes, church events, family dinners with people who never asked what actually tore us apart. They've rewritten the story, I'm sure. I've become the ungrateful daughter, or the one who cut them off for no reason. I don't care. I'm not explaining myself anymore. My daughter started kindergarten this fall. She's thriving. Reading early, making friends easily, not asking about the people who disappeared. Kids remember love, and they remember where it stopped. Sometimes when I'm folding laundry or making her lunch, I think about that New Year's Eve. That moment where everything cracked open. I'm still glad it happened. I wish it had happened sooner. Peace didn't come from getting an apology. It came from walking away without waiting for one. And I haven't looked back since.